Hello, Spider fans. We are here for a very special Facebook chat with the cast and crew of Spider-Man Far From Home. Everybody ready?
Yes.
All right, so we asked fans across all of the Spider-Man social pages for some great questions, and so we pulled some really fun ones.
Wait, there's Spider-Man social pages?
So many of them. It's wild. I know. So let's see. We got one in here on Twitter from Tom's Marvel. He says, how much higher would you guys say the stakes are in this movie compared to Homecoming? And I think that's a good one to sort of just overall look at what's going on in Spider-Man Far From Home.
Well, Sam, you had a really nice soundbite, which I've stolen, by the way, and I'm going to say it now.
Okay, nothing.
Sam said, we've taken Spider-Man out of Queens and we've put him on the world stage, you know, and that in its own right ups the stakes, you know. And I often say that Spider-Man's gone from the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man to now the friendly universe saving Spider-Man.
Not because he wants to.
Not because he wants to, but because Nick Fury is a dick.
He is kicking and screaming. Yeah.
That's going to be the full quote of this whole thing. I love that. All right, let's bounce around. Let's see. Jacob.
Yes.
My Stan account on Instagram asks, how would you describe Ned and Betty's love story in 3 words?
Cute, gooey, and and sweet.
Yeah.
Sounds like my favorite dessert.
Yeah. 2 words.
My favorite.
I didn't think of one. I'm sorry.
Gooey and sweet.
Yeah.
Jake, how does it feel to be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Oh, it's an honor. So cool. And it's so cool to be a part of this movie in particular because to sort of add on to what Tom said at the beginning, I had seen the first movie and I thought the tone of the movie was so great. It was so funny, full of action. But this movie is 10 times the size. It's like, it's a huge film. It's overwhelmingly huge. It's amazing. And so to be a part of that is really exciting. And to just join up with everybody, people who I admire and who I have loved working with is great.
And now that Tony Stark's gone, we need a new orator. He's killing his monologues. I was sitting there like, oh, that's what he's doing? And he's explaining it. It makes sense. Awesome. We have a new orator.
Oh my goodness.
This one comes in from Lewis's tweeting, and he also asks, what appealed to you most about playing Mysterio?
Oh, wow. Well, I think the take on Mysterio in from the comics into the movie is different, you know. And I love that he teams up with Spider-Man and that Nick Fury kind of makes them meet each other and then they realize that they have a lot in common as a result of that. And I loved the idea that they would join up and be friends and that they would be heroes together, which is so different from what people would expect. And I really just loved the suit. The suit was sweet and
I said cute, gooey, and sweet. Yes, sir.
my suit was
yes, sir.
sweet, gooey, and cute.
You know what?
Use this
Whatever. I'm done.
All right. There's a question here for John, and this one is from Twitter user Argella12. They ask, how was the name Far From Home chosen?
I always don't know if I should.
I was going to say home. I made a long list of things that could have home in it. So, home on the range didn't make any sense.
Homesick.
Homesick seemed kind of gross.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sick, like
Yeah.
people don't like that. So far from home cooking.
It's funny, we shot the first film that was called Spider-Man Homecoming
Homework.
thousands of miles away from my home, and then we shot Spider-Man Far From Home 25 minutes.
Must have been fun.
Yeah, it was quite nice, actually.
So we have a question here for Kevin and Amy. This one comes in from Instagram. It's the In Progress Artist. They ask, without spoilers, obviously, how would you describe Peter's development as a character after the loss of his second father figure in Tony Stark?
I think in this movie he becomes a man. I think in this movie he goes from being a boy who is looking for a mentor to through his relationship with Mysterio and Nick Fury being on him, I think he becomes a man by the end of the movie. And I think
Sam.
that
In the movie. By the end of the movie.
Oh, right. In the movie, right. Okay, sorry.
There's an asterisk.
Spider-Man.
It wasn't about you.
In the movie. That was my joke.
Well, that's that goes to the title as well. Far from home, he's physically out of Queens and on this European trip, which, by the way, was somewhat inspired by the European homecoming tour. And we went to Paris and London. We thought, wouldn't it be fun if that's what the next movie was about?
I remember being on
Yeah.
a rooftop in Rome doing something like this, and I looked out and I saw a Spider-Man on one of those roofs with Rome as the backdrop, and I was like, that'd be a good movie.
That's the next movie.
So cool. I didn't
But
know
also,
that.
he's far from home, far
like.
from the comfort of the Avengers, far from his mentorship with Tony, who's gone. So that was sort of the double meaning of why we chose that name from that long list of home-related titles.
Just wait, there'll be many more homes.
Spider-Man Homeless will be the next one.
That was one.
This question from Tyler Redman on Facebook is for you, Zendaya. Peter and MJ's relationship this time around seems more complicated in Homecoming. How do you approach playing a character that has so many different feelings and emotions towards a very specific person?
I think you just be honest with it, you know? Like, adolescence is awkward, and it's uncomfortable, and it's weird, and you don't know what you're doing, and you just kind of, like, let that happen, and we've all been there, and you just kind of relive it all over again. But I think what's sweet about, I think, their relationship is they kind of have to lean on each other. We've all been through, like, this weird thing, and now we're just kind of stuck together, and we've always kind of been, I think, the outcasts, and I think that they find and they actually can see each other and appreciate each other for all the weird, quirky awkwardness that they are, because that's just who they are, and they like it about each other, which is really, really sweet, I think. And I don't know, I think we've done awkward really well, which is really impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think we get to peel back the layers of her. I think she's very guarded and just kind of let the gooey
open happen.
It's so good.
It's so fun.
In the movie. It's so good.
We were saying the awkwardness comes so naturally because we all know each other so well that when we're acting with each other,
It's
I'm
awkward.
like, why? I know you're not like that. Like, why are you doing that? I can see right through you. So it is quite awkward, isn't it? When we're all
We're all doing stuff together,
Question in here for Sam. This one comes from Aisha Graham on Facebook. Aisha asks, this is Nick Fury's third appearance in a Marvel movie this year, which is wild. How does it feel to be the connective tissue for the MCU?
Oh, well, that's always been sort of the pride of, Nick Fury and being able to connect all these different, people together from the first time I showed up. It's kind of like I've been that guy that says, okay, you're in this one, and you're in this one, and then all of a sudden I'm not like, okay, where am I? So I'm not around, I only feel awkward about Civil War because I couldn't stop the kids from fighting. It's kinda like,
That's why you weren't there.
where was I? Well, I probably ran into Jewel somewhere and I was walking around, hanging around, walking around. But no, it's a great sense of pride for me to bring all these, different elements together when I have the opportunity to do it.
Tom, this question is from William Sepulveda on Twitter. William asks, if you could have any one of the Spider-Man suits, which one would it be, and why would you take that one?
As Tom Holland?
Yes.
It'd have to be the Iron Spider suit because it's kind of limitless, that suit. We don't really know what it can do. I don't think Peter even realizes what it can do yet. So yeah, I think I'd probably have to take that one. Yeah, I think that'd be my go-to.
It's real shiny, too.
Yeah, it's shiny.
Hard to travel with, though.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
Hard to travel with. That's
It
a
is
great
hard.
point. That's a
Yeah.
great point. But what if
But worth
we don't
it.
know if it can fly or not, though?
Oh.
And it could probably be,
Yeah, put it in
Yeah.
your pocket.
yeah. Put it in your pocket. Yeah. Carry it around.
Tony.
This question for everybody comes in from Instagram. It's Leo53633 asks, what was the hardest scene to shoot, to really put together, get through? Maybe it was you guys because you know each other so well, or because it was a big shot that you were trying to orchestrate, or maybe you had a really great bunch of lines. What was it for?
There was one thing that was just impossible because we were in Venice and really everything comes and goes on boats. And we were just shooting this like what should have been a very straightforward scene with all the kids. But we had to hold all the traffic for all the people that actually live in Venice. And they were getting so mad at us and yelling at us the whole time. So we couldn't get through a take because an old Venetian man would yell at us, and then all the kids would crack up, and then we'd have to let everyone through, and he'd scream at everyone as he walked by, and it ended up taking so much longer than it was supposed to.
And it's not in the movie.
It is in the movie.
It is?
Yeah. That's when you guys are all in front of the hostel.
Oh, right. Yeah, right. It is, yeah.
It's in the movie.
It's in the movie. Sorry. Whoops.
Was that for you guys as well? Seeing that kind of...
I found, for us, the hologram scene's quite difficult. There's scenes where we're kind of looking at holograms, and obviously they're not real. And there's 4 or 5 of us looking at the same thing, and I'm like looking at Jake's eyes like, oh, where are you looking? Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, right. I see what you're looking at now. Oh, okay, I see.
That question. How big is it?
Yeah.
First time with holograms too. So I like the first time I didn't do the first take when I was describing stuff. I remember I didn't do anything, and John was like, "That was great." There are these holograms. They're sort of spinning around. Where are they spinning? I'm not so sure where they're gonna spin. Okay, so just look where you're. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And
We'll
move
put
your
them wherever
hands.
you're looking.
Yeah.
When you guys are all looking in
They're
different
called
places.
the elemental creatures. And he's like, just slow, make the movements a little smaller next time.
Yeah.
They're holograms.
Whose face is it in the storm?
Another one in here from Facebook, JC Calderon, for you, Zendaya. MJ has some really great one-liners in the clips that we've seen. Are those in the script? How much do you improv? How much do you, especially when you're conversing with the folks that you work with so closely and know so well, how much of that just comes natural?
A lot of those are already made because I think the cool thing about MJ is everything she says is very intentional. She never really trips over her words. The only time we finally see her do that is when she's talking to Peter, and that's when it's like, oh, she actually has like a vulnerable side, you know, and her wall starts to kind of come down a little bit. So I think that's like the deliberate part is I have to learn my lines as well as I can because everything is very like, you know, she knows what she says before she says it. So anytime there is new lines that are added, it's a very stressful experience because I want it to be said perfectly. But yeah, no, that's self-applied, you know, but yeah, so.
And when do the T-shirts go on sale?
Right.
Marvel Much will get on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is for Tom and Jacob, but also kind of for everybody. This one comes in from Anna Bott on Facebook. She says, who is the most iconic best friend duo in the MCU? Is it Tony and Rhodey, Steve and Bucky, Rocket and Groot, Peter and Ned, Sam and Nick and Maria? Who's the most iconic duo that we see in the MCU?
I mean, you can't say us because I'm gonna obviously choose us. You know what I mean? Like I can't.
I would say it would be Tony and Happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a scene in this film where that really kind of hits home. Yeah, I would have to say those two, yeah.
I would say Peter and Ned come close. Peter and Ned.
Close second.
Because if you think about it, they were in one shot together in Infinity War, and the audience goes crazy. They're in one shot together in Endgame, and the audience starts to cry.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty impressive based on the friendship from, at that point, one other film.
Oh, Kevin,
What was
That's
cool
pretty
about
powerful.
things.
What was cool about that shot in Endgame is that we were shooting on the ground floor of a school for Spider-Man Far From Home, and then Jacob and I would run upstairs and shoot that scene for Endgame. So we were shooting 2 movies at the same time in the same school, but just on different floors. We'd like quickly run upstairs, change costumes, change directors.
That's a busy set.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I went down and I just stood behind Joe and Anthony, and I was like,
I felt like I was choosing.
I guess so.
Oh my goodness.
A question in here that is for all our actors here. And this one comes in from Alyssa Henderson on Facebook. She asks, in what ways do each of you want to inspire fans with the roles that you're portraying, with your characters, with the actions, with the things that you're saying and putting out there?
Ooh. Deep question.
I think what John did so well in the first film is, you know, if you look at our cast, we're the most diverse group of people ever. And, you know, we're representing so many people and our films are so relatable to so many different people. And it's so nice, I guess, to be a part of that. And that's a testament to you guys as well from the beginning. Like, really kind of trying to make that happen. And I think it just is a really nice thing to see a film of this scale to be so sort of, to be representing so many people. Yeah.
A question for Amy and Kevin particularly, but also I think it applies to you, John, as well. What is the creative process for bringing Spider-Man's story to life? A character who so many fans know so well. We've seen so many iterations in every medium. What is that creative process like from that standpoint?
Well, it starts with what haven't we seen before? What do we want to see? We already mentioned being on the press tour for Homecoming in Europe and saying, well, that'd be fun to get Peter. Yes, we've gotten him to space briefly, as Nick Fury points out, rather bluntly in the movie. But seeing him on a class trip around Europe and countries he hasn't been before, and then certainly with Mysterio, somebody we've always loved and had never been brought to the screen before. What else did we do?
I think the key thing is to always remember that Peter's personal story drives the movie, and that the action sequences are part of what he's going through emotionally as character. So and the action sequences in this movie are fantastic.
Amazing, yeah.
Amazing, and unlike anything that has ever been done in any Spider-Man movie, frankly, and thrilling because of our magnificent director. But I think the thing to always remember when you're trying to figure out what the right story is to figure out what the story you want to tell about Peter is, and to make sure that his personal life is what really drives the story, not anything else.
And then I always just go back and read the comics, because it's good for me to remind myself of what made this so great in the first place. Like, Spider-Man has been a phenomenon since he was introduced. And, just going back and reminding myself of those things that make Spider-Man special, and what made Mysterio so iconic immediately, and how to tell MJ's story in a refreshing way. Things like that always help me, stay grounded.
Yeah, I think one of the great things about working with these two gentlemen that I'm sitting next to on this raised thing, very uncomfortably.
That's for the people listening on the radio.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Is that you really, we spend a lot of time talking about Nick Fury's character and who he is. We spent enormous amount of time talking about Mysterio, talking about MJ, talking about, Jake, talking about, Ned, talking about the relationship between these two guys and where they are now. And I think that's one of the great joys of working on the movie.
Question here for you, John. This one comes in from Kato Queasley on Facebook. They ask, ahead of Far From Home, are there any Spider-Man Homecoming Easter eggs that have yet to be discovered?
Well, Kato, there's it's like almost so obscure that I don't even know if anyone could ever find it, but there's a Howard the Duck reference.
There is?
Yeah, yeah.
Where is it?
Yeah,
We watched it yesterday. Now I got to go back again.
Yeah.
He's in the, well, I know how the
Always
from the
reasons to
Marvel.
go back.
Yeah.
It's a very small Easter egg hidden in tall grass.
Amazing. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time for this. I'm sure all the fans appreciate it. Check out Spider-Man Far From Home in theaters July 2nd.